Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Anime Soirée. Today we are talking about the Miyazaki Studio Ghibli movie The Wind Rises. This movie is about a pilot or a aviation engineer in the 30s of Japan, 30s and 40s of Japan, and it's a semi-biographical telling of his life as the designer for Mitsubishi and designing the A5M and the Zero, and his relationship with a girl that he meets as a kid. Um, just overall, I thought it was really great. I'm like a history buff, so I I came into the movie not knowing what it was about, and like halfway through, I was like, okay, this guy is a, a plane engineer, and his goal is to design beautiful planes. And we're in Japan in the 30s. And so, what is the one plane that he's probably going to be the one to design? It's going to be the Zero, because like that was Japan's most known plane at the time. And I guessed correctly, and I was pretty proud of myself for that. But also, like that's a really cool subject matter. And it watching this movie, it was an excellent movie, and it made me want to read the book. And I might actually do that just because like his life seems pretty interesting.
Oh, nice. I didn't know it was based off a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that because it was, like, super, like, thorough and, like, really, really detailed about, like, a lot of different, like, elements of his life and, like, how we follow him from when he's, like, a kid all the way until, like, the 30s and the 40s. And I really appreciate that, like, that we get to, like, see like so much about his character, and despite the fact that he's kind of like he's a more quiet and soft-spoken guy, but we learn a lot about him through like just seeing a lot of different situations that he's in, and also these like super elaborate and like beautifully animated dream sequences that he has. Um, where we like really, I feel like those are really key in like helping the audience understand like why he wants to design planes and like the amount of love and passion that he has for it. And I really, really liked those scenes. I thought they were fantastic.
Yeah, I have to agree. The big thing for me for this movie, like kind of his fantastical, imagination and love for airplanes, and you see that through the dream sequences a lot, and you see that just through his work and people's perception of his work ethic. And I guess he doesn't get that many awards, but he just gets completed planes and more work from his boss. But he never really gives up, but it's always about planes for him. But kind of just seeing that, juxtaposed with like what these planes are being used for, and there's a lot of scenes in like his dreams slash visions of just like the world like exploding. And I kind of just like I think he never really says like in dialogue that isn't in a dream sequence like, oh hey, like I know what I'm doing is killing a bunch of people. But I feel like those dream sequences are kind of just like subliminal like background images like in the back of his mind as he's building these planes, and for him it's all about the passion of just being an engineer and being creative. But I think deep down he knows that what he's doing is like getting a bunch of people killed. And it was an interesting way to kind of tackle that kind of issue because he definitely saw the pain it was bringing in the dream sequences. But I don't know. I don't know if it had an outward effect on him in dialogue. He was never like, he never really brought up anything about it. I just feel like I don't know. I don't think he ignored it. I think he was just like coped a little bit. Like he almost felt obligated to. And I don't know. It was kind of the one part of the movie where I was like, I don't know. He never really addressed the visions he had in the back of his mind about all these people dying and Japan exploding, and there's all these references to Japan being bombed. I guess it might have been more of like a protectionist standpoint of like, oh, okay, well we're gonna get bombed, so um, I guess I don't feel as bad about it. So maybe that's kind of the angle, I guess. But yeah,
I don't know. I kind of think that he wasn't really like I think that he wasn't I don't know if he was thinking about it from that, like, a self-defense kind of standpoint. I think it was kind of just like a truth that he accepted. Like they kind of talk about it in like the very last dream sequence where they kind of reveal that he was the one who designed like the ultimate like the his magnum opus, like his plane that was used the most and like his beautiful plane was like the Zero, which is like the plane that all of the kamikaze pilots used. When like in that dream sequence when he's talking to like the count,
Yeah.
um, and the count basically is like, you know what, this is just like one of the like tragic truths of like flying and of like aviation in general is that like it's so tragic that something as like pure as like man's dream to fly, like the tools that we make to achieve that dream are only going to be used as like weapons of destruction and death. So I think that like he just, you know, he's a man who is like so completely devoted to his dream that like he's just going to do it anyway and he just accepts that like yes, this is like a tragedy, but it's I don't think that I don't know. I mean, he definitely thinks that, like he's traumatized by that for sure. Like the fact that he like has all these like nightmares and stuff. But I also don't think that like he's the type of person that would just give up on his dream because of that. And I think he understands that like, you know, that like me not pursuing my dream is not going to save anyone. Like it's just going to like make it so that I'm going to be less happy with my life. So
Yeah.
I kind of like the like empowered kind of like view that he has where it's just like I'm going to achieve my dreams and like yeah, like some people might use them for like nefarious ends, but that's just the way that the world is and like if I want to be happy, I'm going to need to pursue what I want to do. And I kind of
Yeah.
like that part of his character.
I really like that last dream sequence. And it kind of
Ye-
plays into the sequence where they're showing the Zero off for the first time earlier. Um, and he just like the I think the one line that stuck out to me was like he sees all the zeros in the dream sequence, they're going off to war or whatever, and he's like, they're not coming back. He's like, none of them ever come back. And like I was like, oh shit, the kamikazes, like I was like, that's like such a big thing. Like this beautiful piece of work that he has been working on for so long, and like like you said, it's his magnum opus, and they're using such like a horrific and just destructive way, literally just purposefully crashing this beautiful piece of machinery is like such a tragic realization at that moment that none of these
Yeah.
planes are coming back and they're being used for such a horrific purpose, and that was like a big point of impact for me. And then
Yeah,
another
definitely.
another like big thing for me about the dream sequences is just in general, and the dream sequences really amplified this, was it really reminded me of Isaacin, and then maybe that's where they get the inspiration in Isaacin for the creative process when how they show that off, because they even like point like I think at one point in Isaac and they like have a uh Asakusa as like Miyazaki dressed up. But the one thing that I
Hmm.
noticed was like the plane noises in the dream sequence were like it sounded like somebody was doing them with their mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I noticed
Yeah.
that.
And that's
Yeah.
exactly what they did in Isaacan with a lot of the noises.
Uh-huh.
And I really liked that, and it was, like, such a, like, a good way of and it wasn't even just in the dream sequences, I think it was throughout the entire movie. It was just people making
Yeah.
the plane noises and just noises in general, and it kinda gave it, like, another level of enjoyment for me, just, like, it almost was, like, lighthearted in that way,
Yeah, it
and
kind of,
it
like, made it more tragic that, like
yeah,
because the
exactly.
planes, like, seem, like, pure, like, when
Yeah, exactly.
it's just people making the sounds, like, it doesn't sound as, like, harsh as, like,
It's
the
yeah, it's not some
machinery that's
harsh,
actually
loud
involved.
engine machinery going clunk, 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 clunk. It's just going some
Yeah,
guy on a in a studio going pa 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 pa,
yeah,
stuff like that. And then it's and just like also it's him building these planes, and like I said, it kind of shows off the creative process just like they did in Isaacin, and that's like something I noticed heavily throughout of it, and that's one of the reasons I liked it so much.
Yeah,
yeah, I definitely
the ending had a big impact for me as well. Just like the amount of evolution and like his creative process from like, okay, I want to be a pilot as a child, and then quickly realizing that that's not a possibility for him, and then as a aeronautical engineer, he's working with worse technology and traveling the world and making realizations, and as he's learning more and getting better resources and becoming a better engineer, he has like different epiphanies about different mechanical aspects of the plane. And I like the detail that they went into. They didn't get into the super complicated stuff. It was all like fairly understandable mechanics to a plane. And they really showcased his thought process in exactly the way you're talking about, kind of the Isaacan-esque way. And
Mhm.
it just made really, really like some really beautiful scenes. And I mean, when it came to the end, and he just basically got to see like his life's work, that we were along the ride with him to see him create, just being used in the way it was. The ending had a big impact on me, and his wife there too, who was just like, I just, what did she say? Like, I just want you to live. I was just like,
Yeah.
Jesus,
She's
dude.
like, "I want you to live your life to the fullest," basically, and it's like, damn, that's
Yeah.
so sad because she, like, dies in the scene before, and it's just like, Jesus.
It's
Yeah.
it was a lot. The ending was a lot for me, and I think that this movie did a really great job of like building up to that moment and making everything seem so earned, and then everything just kind of crashing down, and his work not being as, I don't know, I don't know what the word is, but used in a more productive way. And then his wife just disappearing from his life, that he didn't even get to spend that much time with as a healthy adult. It's just too bad. But it
Yeah.
was a good
I
ending.
like the line they say about she wants him to remember her as she was instead of, like, what she might be down the road before she dies. I think that was pretty beautiful, and, like, they don't, like, explicitly say that she dies, but it's like he's trying out the 0, and he, like, looks off into the distance, and just a giant gust of wind, and then you see her in the dream later, and it's just like, damn, it's like a really beautiful way of sending somebody off without, like, hitting you over the head with it. Yeah, it's definitely very sad. I even thought, like, because when I first watched it, I was like, I feel like introducing the romance, like, pretty much halfway through the movie, and they kinda set it up early, obviously. Initially was like, "This seems kinda late," but, like, by the end of the movie, I was just like, "Fucking holy shit, that was a great romance between the 2." It was very organic and felt great.
Yeah, I thought I didn't think I was afraid. I mean, normally with, like, romances in general, I feel like they tend to be, like, shoehorned in, but this one definitely did not feel like that at all, and I actually thought it did the like, the main point of the movie, like, a big service because it really just, like, showed how there were so many points where his wife was just, like, sick in bed, and he's just, like, up late next to her, like, just completely like, engulfed in his work, like, that's all that he can focus on, and I mean, that is also sad, like, the fact that, like I mean, I definitely like the fact that he's, like, so dedicated to seeing his dream, and, like, I respect that, and, like, that's something that I admire for sure, but then at the same time, like, seeing the other side of that in this way as well, like, that means that he is not able to spend, like, as much time with the people that he loves because this is like, his dream is almost, like, consuming him,
Yeah.
um, but, like, I don't think that the movie is, like, saying that like, I actually think the movie is incredibly, like, romantic in the sense, like, that like, like, I don't think that this movie condemns pursuing your dreams in any way. Like, I think that
No.
it actually, like, affirms it, and it's basically saying that, like, even in, like, a case like this where, you're the product of you achieving your goals and your dreams are is going to be used in such a horrible way, it's, like, still worth it and it still has value. Like, I like the fact that it is able to only by showing both sides of the coin, right? Like the good and the bad, is it able to like truly affirm that this is like a worthwhile pursuit. And that's one of the things that I really love about the movie, is that it doesn't shy away from showing the bad, but still affirms the good.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that movies that kind of have, more gray area and not so much, the good guys won, the bad guys lost kind of message. And this movie, although it has a lot of like fantastical elements, is really grounded. And then just like,
Hmm.
you have a pursuit, you make an impact, and these are the repercussions, and they affect the world. From every angle. It's not just like, oh, okay, you're making, I don't know, something that only positively affects you or your family or your country. And I like the scope of this movie a lot. I like how it hopped around and you got to see the world, and it almost, I don't know, it made the impact of like, what he's building seem a lot broader. So I think when, they decided to make this movie. I think they made a really good choice, kind of making it feel more global. I guess if you're gonna do a movie about World War II, but they kind of have like little side stories. You don't really get the full picture, but kind of everybody knows what's going on. So
Yeah.
I think making that choice to talk about the impact to everyone, and then just the choices for the settings just makes it hit that much harder. So for
Yeah.
that.
I really liked you mentioned them jumping around, and I like the scenes in like when he's going around the world, but I also really like just like the broader aspect we get to see of Japan because like it's like a really good contrast with the scenes in like the poorer areas and the scenes where he's like in Tokyo and they have to use like oxen to get the planes to the airfield, and then he goes to Germany and like they've got full metal planes that you can walk around in, and so it's like this like these crazy contrasts in the sets and scenery. It works really well for the show for the movie.
Yeah, it really makes the world feel like, I mean, it's our world, but
Yeah.
like, it's still whenever there's, a movie or any like piece of art, like it's constructing its own world. And so I think that like things like that make the world that the movie is constructing just feel so rich and detailed and like lived in. Yeah, and I also really love seeing like the historical like context of Japan. Like this isn't really something that we get a lot of in anime, is like what Japan was like at this time in history. And I really like it. Yeah, like you said, it was interesting to see the contrast between it and other nations, and also within Japan as well. And like this kind of like Western versus like traditional values that are kind of like always like clashing like aesthetically, I guess. There are a lot of like scenes where like there are a lot of people that are dressed in traditional Japanese clothing, and then there are also a lot of people that are dressed in Western clothing, and they're just vibing together in the city. And that was just
Mhm.
like, I don't know, it was a cool, it was a nice vibe, I guess. Even though
Yeah.
this movie isn't really about that, it was like, it was just it made it feel rich, like it was good.
I really like that this movie, we're talking about all the different places that Jiro goes, and gets goes to the a little side quests here and there, but this movie has a really strong focus. And I really like that his goals are so simple. It's just like be a good person. There's quite a few instances where he just helps people, and that helped him meet his wife, and build airplanes, and those are like the two things that like he's about. And I really like that when he spends time with his wife, or I guess when he meets his wife, like it's still all about airplanes, and he never really loses sight of his goal. And I don't know. I just like that the focus of the movie is so consistent. I guess I feel like a lot of the times movies or animes will jump around a lot, and the plot and the ambitions of the character might get a little confusing. But I was never ever confused what Gyro wanted to do. And sorry, is it Gyro? Am I
I think
saying
it's
that?
Jiro.
Gyro, sorry,
Hero.
Gyro. I was never ever confused with what Jiro wanted to do, and I think that really helped me, make the I guess feel a stronger connection with him, because I always knew what he wanted, I always knew what he felt, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like a lot of times, like I wasn't sure where the plot was going, but the like the through line was just like Jiro, the main character. Like the fact that he was like such a well-defined character despite like not like saying much in most of his scenes, like just definitely like was the through line of the movie, and it was kind of like the anchor. Whereas like when I wasn't sure where the plot was going, I was like, well, I at least understand like how this guy is reacting to it and like how this is like shaping him. That's kind of just like the whole point of the movie. It was like is I mean, it is basically a biopic, and it's just about his life. And yeah, like the like seeing like the side quests and stuff didn't feel like it was unrelated, because it was all about like how it affected and like how it affected his desire to see his dreams through.
I kind of going off that, I liked the way that time was handled, especially early in the movie. The first half kind of skips around, like skips forward a couple times, and I really liked how his character like grew in between each time, and like he pretty much stayed the same as like personality wise, but like you got to see how like So he's in the town during the earthquake, and then he's like, "Okay, I'm off to go to get this job." And he's with this friend that he's known for a long time. I think his name is Kiro. And then it skips forward, and he's been working there for a while. And like one of the characters that like stuck out to me the most, besides Kiro, actually, I think he probably stuck out more than Kiro was his boss, Kurokawa, the short guy with the hair.
Mhm.
I really like that character because like he's first introduced as like he reminded me of, I don't know if this is a weird reference, but the boss in The Incredibles that's like
Oh.
really short,
Dude,
really
that's
short and like
literally
really
him.
angry. He reminded me of him because like he starts off, he's like he seems very short and very angry. He's like, okay, you do this. This is your job or whatever. But like
He
throughout the
also has the
movie,
butt part, I think.
yeah, throughout the movie, he like grows into like almost a father figure for Jiro, and like he ends up officiating his wedding and like staying at his residence, and like he seems like if not a father figure, then like a really good friend, and like I really like that character and how he grew, and just like how the time skips were handled, and we get to see the evolution of the character through the 30s basically.
I
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say I really like how he like becomes like the best kind of boss who is literally
Yeah,
just like in trying to enable him in any way that he can, you know, like I like the scene where like him and like he like sets him up with like the like head of engineering or whatever at the company, and like they're he's like at the point where he's like giving where Jiro is like giving like lectures to all of like the newcomers. And I really like the scene where like he is just like with the head of engineering guy, and they're just like watching him. Like
yeah,
I
that was a
really
great
love
scene.
that. Like yeah, and that scene also was a great moment where he's talking about how to like it's kind of a tangent, but he's like talking about how to like make the planes go faster, and he's like, "Oh, well, if we just take out the guns, then they'll be able to go really fast." Like that was just
Yeah,
like definitely like that. I think that is like the like line that like just exemplifies like what he's thinking about the war. Like he's just not thinking about the war because he's just so like all he cares about is his planes, and like the
yeah.
guns are just they're just baggage
And we
I
get to
should
see
say.
Jiro in the workplace in that moment. Like we don't get to see him interact with like everybody else at Mitsubishi. We get to see him with his
Yeah.
friend and with his boss, but at that moment you get to see like, okay, yeah, like everyone here is like pretty respectful of him, and like he's good friends with all of them, and they're laughing and having a great time, and
The
like
fact
he's
that they
literally
were
just telling them
laughing at
about this
him,
aircraft.
like that they were laughing like he was like charismatic, and like this is like the
Yeah.
least charismatic main character of like anything ever, but like
Yeah.
all of these like engineers are just like geeking out over planes with him, and like that's like because that's his thing, like it makes perfect sense, and I love it. Yeah.
I really like that scene with Kurokawa. It's like his first assessment of Jiro's like first assignment, I guess, and he's like, oh, well, where's the work that I assigned you? And then he's looking at it, and he's just like clearly pissed off, and then he says like in a really mad voice like it's perfect. And I just thought that was so funny. He kind of keeps that demeanor with Jiro up until like the wedding, I feel like, where that he's really stern with Jiro, and kind of has a pretty harsh tone, but like he's always like approving of everything that he does, more or less. Even in that
Yeah.
scene with the lecture, he kind of has that same like angry tone, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's very inspiring," but he sounds like really pissed off.
Yeah, I love the fact that that's just like what this character is. He's just like he just gives off pissed off vibes all the time. Like, and I mean, and he was like really like his character design and like the way that he like walks around in his animation, like such a good job of conveying just how like that vibe of just being angry and giving off angry vibes to everyone that he encounters.
There should just
Was
be
like
a
really good.
fucking there should just be a meme. It's like if you're short and you have this haircut, you are angry, and it's just a picture of that guy, or it's a picture of Kurokawa and Levi from Attack on Titan.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Oh god, that's
He's
actually
literally
so
Levi.
funny. And then also his hair animation was really good. Whenever he was angry,
Exactly.
his hair would just bounce around everywhere. It was really good.
That's like the classic Miyazaki thing where like characters emote through their hair. Like when they're like surprised, their hair kind of like stands up a little bit, and I fucking love it. It looks so cool.
Let's
Did you
see.
wait, Griffin? Did you watch the dub or the sub?
Oh, I watched the sub. I know
Yeah.
I've
I
kind of been on a dub train lately, but no, for like a Ghibli film, like I'm gonna watch the sub.
I really like the voice acting, and of course Hideaki Anno doing Jiro, which is super cool, and I think he did a great job. Um, but I'm looking at the dub right now, and it's got an A-list cast. Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Jiro, Emily Blunt as Naoko, John Krasinski as Kiro, Martin Short as Kurosawa, or
What the fuck?
Kurokawa.
Are you
Uh,
serious?
Werner Herzog as the German guy, William H. Macy as Satomi. I don't even know who that is. I can't remember. Mae Whitman, who plays Katara in Avatar, Mandy Patinkin, Stanley Tucci, Elijah Wood. Like, what the hell is this cast?
That's
I want to
good.
go back and watch the dub.
Yeah, I might.
Dude,
That's
I'm pretty sure it's
crazy.
because I think it's because Disney usually like handles the dub cast for the Ghibli movies.
Yeah,
So
Ghibli
they
movies
they,
are
they
pretty big in America, so
Do they like contract Disney to do that, or are they like?
um
Is
they,
there a
they have an
go?
agreement. I mean, they don't own them or anything like that. Like, but
Okay,
yeah, there's like they have some deal, I think, where it's just like, oh, Disney like handles the like distribution of the movie. Like they're basically like I'm sure they sell the DVDs and stuff. Like Disney gets like a cut of that. Like I don't know,
yeah.
they just handle like the publishing for America.
I think
gotcha.
my biggest question about that would be like how Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays Jiro, because like I think Anno did such a good job being like this not very like he doesn't seem charismatic. He kind of just like goes with the flow. Not he doesn't he's not very overly emotive or anything or overly
Yeah.
emotional at any time. So I would be very curious to see how he played him. And I might actually go back and watch that this weekend or something.
Yeah,
Yes, like oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say you make a good point about like how Jiro like literally goes with the flow with everything. Like his wife, like he almost like didn't meet his wife. Like he wouldn't have met his wife if he did go out of his way to like help people, and then he wouldn't have realized that he met her again if her umbrella hadn't flown away. And
Yeah.
then like even when they were about to have sex, like on their marriage night, he's like, "All right, I guess you should probably go to bed," and then she's just like, "Come," and then he's like, "Okay." And I don't know. I thought that was pretty funny that everything that isn't about airplanes he more or less lets happen to him unless like he absolutely has to do something.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was gonna say like I really like I like the fact that he was voiced by Ano in the sense that like Ano was literally not a voice actor. And it definitely like made the like the delivery of all of his lines and just the performance in general feel like really like naturalistic. You know, it like just genuinely sounded like a dude talking as opposed to like the over exaggerated anime style. It definitely felt like, oh, this is just like just some quiet dude talking, and it like
Yeah.
definitely made
Very
sense for the character.
quiet's a very good word for Jiro. He just seems like a quiet guy and the way they voice acted that was great.
Definitely.
I
I thought he
liked
was like a
his. I was just gonna say I liked his suits a lot. He had some
yeah,
pretty fire suits. He had like a pink
it's a pretty
one.
Yeah,
bright
the
suit.
pink one that he's wearing on like or maybe it's lavender. But the one that he's like wearing on like the poster on Mal looks really nice.
I thought he wasn't like overly comedic, but I thought he had some like really funny like small little quips. Like I liked when he was with his wife and she's like, "I want to hold your hand because I like watching where you work." He's like, "Well, if I had a competition for a one-handed slide ruler, I'd be first place." And I was just like, it's like such a weird thing to say, but I was laughing my ass off.
Definitely like
He had like a
dad
bunch of really
humor.
small quips like that that were pretty funny,
Yeah.
and it let the character shine through for sure.
Yeah. Because that is like a plain thing. So like he obviously like he's like, ooh, this is like
Yeah,
my
and then
moment.
yeah, and then you have the meeting we talked about later where they're all like talking about like these plane terminology and they're like geeking out and like laughing at planes and the two people walk in, they're like, "Oh, don't worry, those are just they're just talking about planes over there," and everyone's like cracking up.
Yeah.
Just very very passionate.
You guys want to talk about their portrayal of Germans real quick? Because I thought that shit was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Just
I
like,
thought go
well,
ahead.
the one thing I just definitely wanted to bring up was um, when we met Castorp.
Yeah, Castor.
Like he was like, "Oh, look at this fine German tobacco," and like throughout the movie, you see people smoke cigarettes and it has like a white smoke, but when he
Oh yeah.
smokes, it has like this yellow, like fart looking animation to it. I thought that was pretty funny. and then all
I
the
wonder if he was
ones.
smoking weed.
That's what I thought when I first saw. I was like, okay, well, this person's smoking something, but it's obviously not a cigarette. Is he smoking weed? He's like, oh no, it's just a German cigarette. I was like, okay, oh that makes sense.
I
Is
just
that what
feel
you call it?
I feel like it might be because like I feel like the whole motif for Germans in this movie was like their how industrial they are, and I feel like Yellow Smoke kind of fit that better, but I'm not sure because it seemed more like grimy, more urban. I'm not sure, but
I could see
uh,
that. Yeah.
the thing that I just thought was funny, when they were at the hangar, like all the Germans were like loud as fuck, demanding as fuck. They were constantly running everywhere, telling with the Japanese people what they can and can't do, and I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I liked uh the constant like this comes more in towards the second one, but they talk about like the constant clash, and even the Kempetai even want Jiro, and he has to go into hiding basically, and he's still like making planes because he's passionate about it. But like they talk about they want him because he was like in connection with Castorp basically, because Castorp was hanging out with him for like a long time at that hotel, and Castorp is even like telling him about the story of somebody that's basically his mirror in Germany, Dr. Junkers, who's like a very famous and like the Junkers planes were very integral to Germany's war effort. Like the Stuka was a huge plane for Germany, and that's a Junkers plane. And like Junkers is going through the same thing over in Germany where he's like getting in trouble with the German police because he's not doing what they want and like what Hitler's government wants. And I thought that was a very interesting thing to bring up because it's like a perfect mirror Germany and Japan between Junkers and Jiro.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of goes to show that like all of this, like someone has got to make all of those planes, and most of the time it's just going to be like the only people who like care enough to like get good at making planes are the people who are just passionate about making planes. It's not like the people that design the planes are the monsters. Like it's the people that repurpose them as tools for war. Like that's what's really messed up. It's not the like it that's it's not really Jiro's fault.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't say that he's like completely like devoid of any blame. I mean, he definitely feels guilt over this, but like yeah, I mean, it's not really like if it wasn't him, someone else would be making the planes.
Yeah. He what he said, I think the major line that he says like I don't really care about war. I just want to make beautiful planes. And I think he says that in one of the first dream sequences, which is pretty great.
I really really vibed. Well, I guess I should just start with my first impression of it, but when like the movie opened up and it started playing like kind of like Italian music, I was like, "What the fuck? This is a Japanese movie, but I'm hearing Italian music." And like I read the blurb, so I knew it was like about a Japanese engineer. But I really really started to like dig that track by the end of the movie. I don't know what Japanese, I mean, what Italian song that was, but it was great, and it made a lot of sense just because like, we got to go back and forth between Jiro and uh what do we call him? Do we
Who?
call him Giovanni? The
Oh, Caproni?
Caproni, yeah. The back and forth between Caproni and Caproni's Italian, so it
Yeah.
made sense.
I I also really love the music, and Joe Hisaishi does like all the Studio Ghibli music, and I listen to so much of his work. Um, I think Mononoke is probably one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. And yeah, once again, just knocked it out of the park with this one. It's fucking fantastic soundtrack.
Yeah, I agree. It's so good. Just like everything about I mean, obviously it's a Ghibli movie, but everything about like the presentation was amazing. The animation was fantastic. There's so many like what just blows my mind about this is there's so many, especially near like the first half of the movie, there's so many crowd shots where literally everyone is moving. Like everyone in the
Yeah,
shot is moving.
every
Like
train sequence is when I noticed it.
I know, yeah, the train sequence, like that basically that entire thing from the train all the way until like the earthquake plot line gets resolved. There's just so many people and they're always moving and
Yeah,
like must take like so long to
there's
animate
like
and actually look as good as it does.
there's like
'Cause
several
that's
shots throughout the movie of people getting off trains, and they're not like just really quick things. It's like the one that I noticed the most was when was when Naoko goes to visit Jiro, and when she's getting off the plane, it's like a scene, and they show like legitimately like 10 people get off the train before Naoko does, and they animate every single one of them. And there's also people coming in front of the exit, and then Jiro comes and he's waiting through the crowd, and like they show the crowd for a good amount, and then Naoko seeing the crowd, and then he finally sees Naoko and she sees him, and the amount of animation that went into that was insane.
The I mean, it's a Ghibli movie, so obviously the animation is great. The animation is great. Like it's really, really good. It's just like like I just love looking at these movies. And this is no exception, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did notice
I'm
some
a big
CGI
fan.
though.
You did? Oh wait, where did you see CGI? I
It was
saw
a
on the
single
ruler.
shot,
On the
and I'm
ruler.
sure it was used throughout the movie that I didn't notice it, but the one shot that I noticed was on the aircraft carrier when one of the planes landed. It looked very weird.
Oh, for me, it was when he had the special engineer ruler in his hand. I noticed that
The
that
slide
was,
rule?
yeah, I saw that.
Really?
Uh,
I didn't even notice that,
it
which is
was
good.
definitely
But
CGI. At least in one shot. It was the one where it was like POV, like he had it in his hands, and you were like, but it wasn't. That was the one shot I noticed. I was like, it's
yeah,
fine.
it definitely was not a problem at all.
I didn't notice any of it. And I'm usually pretty decent at noticing that kind of.
I mean, that's a good thing though.
Exactly. Yeah.
The who should we talk about? What do you think? I guess we didn't really talk about Kiro.
For his friend?
Yeah, is it Kiro?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kiro.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Like, he was his buddy, and then they went to Germany together, and then he had to go home, and it seemed like Hiro wasn't as good of an engineer as Jiro, but like they were still like chill with each other. And then like later on in the movie, he basically like comes by and is like, "Hey, can I borrow some of your like sketches or your designs for like some of the German stuff I'm doing?" And I just thought that that was maybe a little funny because at the beginning of the movie, the Germans were like, "Hey, you Japanese just want to copy us," but now he's copying Japanese stuff for the Germans. So I thought that.
I mean, also, like, I think that, he definitely was not as he was never presented as, like, being as just completely passionate about it as Jiro was. Like, from when he went to when they went to Germany, like, he was, like, really, like, bothered by, like, the way that the Germans were treating them, and he was like, "Oh, like, we'll show them, like, we have something to prove, like, as the Japanese, like." So he seemed like more kind of like nationalist, I guess, because he was like more off put by that, and he like wanted to prove that the Japanese people could like do achieve greatness in like the field of aeronautics or whatever. But like Jiro was just like he like literally does not give a shit. Like he doesn't care about like where the planes are coming from or whatever. Like he just wants to make the plane. And so maybe like that was like why he wasn't able to like succeed as well, and how he had kind of had to like lean on Jiro a little bit for his success because like Jiro was truly passionate about it, and from like passion comes like the ability to just get skilled at something. So
I think that maybe that acts as kind of like a foreshadow for like Japanese culture, like Kiro. Because like after World War II, like Japan like becomes like one of the best manufacturers of like cars, right? One of the
mhm.
best
Yeah.
manufacturers of like electronics, like a little bit later, and like they're known for like their crazy work ethic, and they're also like a pretty xenophobic and like pretty loosely nationalist. But I'd say like if you're xenophobic, you're almost like inherently nationalist, because I
Mhm.
know they're not very accepting of foreigners. So maybe he kind of acts as like something to come for Japan kind of plug. I'm not sure,
Yeah, I could
but
see that.
because I'm just trying to figure out like what was the point of him, because he was his buddy, but I don't know. It didn't really seem like he served like had like a conclusion or anything. I don't know.
Yeah, I was kind of underwhelmed by his whole. I don't know. He was kind of just there for me. I didn't really end up caring for him at all. I mean, like I didn't dislike him or like him. He he was just there in multiple scenes. I was like, oh, it's that guy again. And that's kind of like the entire vibe I got. Like I cared about his boss more than I care about him, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I agree. I was just trying to kind of, I guess, find a purpose for him because, I mean, he was in for a decent amount of the movie, but didn't really have a strong conclusion. And I don't know, those are just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like in real life, people don't have arcs. Like maybe he just didn't have an arc. He just never concluded his arc. So I don't know, that could be the case.
I guess it is or it's like a biography, so I guess that's
Yeah.
possible.
Jiro had an arc though. He definitely did. I mean, that's why the movie's about him. It's not about
I
not
mean,
about Kiro.
I looked in his when I was looking him up earlier, it looked like he was like more bomber focused, where Jiro was more fighter focused. And they kind of show that in the
Mhm.
movie when he like shows in the plane, and it's like a really big plane. So his arc was making bombers, and Jiro's arc was making fighters. I don't know. Obviously, Jiro's arc was much more than that, but
Yeah,
that's what
right.
that guy's entire deal was, and I guess
Yeah.
his
I
his
mean,
his
I
famous
definitely
arc
kind of
wasn't.
see him as like a point of contrast
Yeah,
for
I
Jiro.
definitely agree with
Like
that.
Yeah.
in terms that he wasn't as, like I said earlier, he wasn't as focused on planes, and he was kind of more, you know, the he was more caught up in like the stuff surrounding it that that Jiro just kind of like saw through and like was not involved with at all. Like Jiro didn't care about the war. I'm sure that Kiro, as like he was more kind of like nationalistic, would probably have cared more about that. So yeah, I kind of just see him as like a point of contrast and like exemplifying just Jiro's like laser focus on his goal. Um, Kind of like by being a point of comparison, I guess.
Yeah, that is also uh more plausible for sure. Yeah.
I mean, we haven't really talked about Naoko a whole lot, have we?
Not really,
No,
yeah.
not really.
I guess we could just some
I
time.
thought I thought she was an excellent character in her own right. She's not like heavily. She's obviously presented in the first half, but like she really comes into her own in the second half because she's like a main character in the second half. And I liked. I kind of suspected when she was first introduced, like, okay, well, she's probably gonna be a love interest, but her entire ordeal with trying to decide whether or not to stay with him or go to the sanatorium and try to get better as fast as possible, but then she probably realizes like, well, I'm probably not going to get better, so I want to stay with Jiro as much as I can and spend as much time with him as I can. And also like we mentioned earlier, like her deciding to leave so that he remembers her as she was as opposed to what she might become because she's got the tuberculosis and she's going to die eventually because back then tuberculosis was such a big thing. Like I don't know, I feel like her entire ordeal was really beautiful and just like a great portrayal of that kind of motivation that Jiro had. Like he even says like, without I could not have done this without you. And like just like in general, I thought Naoko was a beautifully written character. And I guess she's fictional. She's not like a real thing, but based
Oh,
loosely based
okay.
off his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I see it is kind of like exemplifying like what he's giving up to pursue his dream, right? Like life in general is just so like she really shows how life is so ephemeral. Like she like literally has an illness where she literally knows she's going to die from. So she doesn't have that much time in the world. None of us have that much time in the world. But he's basically, even like him in a lot of ways like choosing to focus his life around his work and his dream instead of like her just kind of like shows like yeah, like sometimes you like if you want to achieve like what you like your goals and your dreams, and sometimes you're giving up some of like the nicer things that life has to offer because you have to like sacrifice some stuff, and they have so much time. If you're going to spend it all on your dreams and stuff, then you won't be able to experience some of those niceness. Like, he could have spent more time with his wife if he wasn't so dedicated to planes, but he was more fulfilled by that, I guess. So it's kind of like tragic in that way too, that like he didn't have much time with her because of that, his dedication to his goal.
Yeah, definitely like a super tragic relationship. One of the better love interests I've seen in a movie in a while. Very like organic, as we talked about. Didn't feel forced. She just felt like, she happened to catch him down his path, and she was interested in him, and I guess he made enough of an effort to show that as well. And I don't really think there's much more I can add. I think you summed it up really well. He is, just an opportunity for him that he didn't fully pursue because there was something that was more important to him, but she understood that, and given her situation, she got to spend some time with somebody she really liked, and I feel like in a way is kind of like the perfect relationship for him, because somebody
Yeah.
who's bedridden is basically, you know, uh, I couldn't, like, if it was a functioning adult who wasn't sick, they would probably expect a lot more out of Gyro or Jiro, and given her condition, he basically gave her as much time as she could take, really. So tragic for sure, but it made sense. Not really a long-term relationship, but it definitely had some beautiful moments. I thought that they were both really great. She just kind of supported him, and that scene where he was holding her hand while she fell asleep was really cute, and pretty solid love interest. And the ending was, we talked about, just like, I cried a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, God damn, bro! Like, this is a
Yeah.
lot.
I mean, yeah, I think that like my problem with a lot of like romances in movies is they feel like they're shoehorned in and they're a detour from like what the movie is about. But I think that she was pretty central to like the main themes of the movie. So I didn't feel like my time was wasted at all when I was experiencing their relationship with them. So yeah, I mean I thought yeah, definitely a great addition, and I don't think that the movie would be as good without her. So
I think, trying to get a little bit more broader here, but I think the reason I don't like movies that are like about love, and like the central point of the movie is love and not about something else, and love finds itself along the way, is like, for me, like, if I were to look at like a girl and talk to her, like, I wouldn't want a love interest with a girl who's just wholly absorbed in me and her life is me. Like, I'm more interested in, a woman who has her own passions and career pursuits or life pursuits or whatever. And then, you make time for a relationship, and you set aside time to spend together. But, there's still a separate goal there. And I feel like this movie did a really good job showcasing my exact feelings of what like an actual healthy relationship looks like, given like real constraints. And I think that's what I find so attractive about it, because it's not, a typical Hollywood, we're going to go on crazy vacations and there's going to be this super great proposal, and our entire lives are just about being in love with each other, because that's just not realistic. It's not relatable. But this movie, I think, is a lot more approachable in that sense.
yeah, it's definitely the other side of the extreme for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot more. I hope I don't, have a girlfriend that's bedridden, but there's compromises in relationships, and this movie shows that.
All I
Yeah.
got away from that was Griffin saying, "Damn, I wish my girl had TB."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I could
I mean,
have a relationship like this for however long it lasted, I don't know, it's so hard to tell with the time.
Yeah,
Or like, a fucking Hollywood one, I would pick this one over it for sure.
I thought that was like a beautiful part. Like she tells him pretty early on, like I'm very sick from my mother's side of my family, and like he just doesn't care. Like if you love someone, you love someone. You love them for as long as you can, and that's the best you can do.
What was her
yeah.
exact disease again? You said TDB?
Tuberculosis.
Oh, she had tuberculosis. Oh
Yeah.
shit, that's not a good one.
Nope, that's a bad one.
Um, was there anything else you guys want to talk about?
I thought his sister was an interesting character, but also I feel like also underutilized maybe because she was introduced in like she was in quite a few scenes, and they kept mentioning like, well, she started off being like, I want to become a doctor, and then she was like, I'm an intern, and then she was like, I am a doctor, but it never really like came to fruition for me at least. I don't know how you guys felt about that.
Um, Okay, well, she was that little girl in the first scene where he was like airplanes and she was like play ball and he was like airplanes, right?
Yeah. I thought it was
Okay.
a good relationship between the 2. I just felt like her personal story obviously wasn't central to the plot or anything, but I thought it
Um,
was kind of weird.
I mean, I think it makes sense. It's just like, another point of showing that their relationship is excluding what other people think. It's not, a super grand uh point to make, but she tried to influence Gyro when she was young, and he was like, "No, I'm gonna fucking do airplane shit." And then she tried to influence him and his, soon to be wife into taking a safer approach to her ailment. And I guess it wasn't a safer because she wanted to go to the sanatorium, and she said no by leaving, and she wanted her to stay. But I guess that was just another point for someone to try to intervene or stop them from making their own decisions, and then them just telling them to go away
Yeah.
because I don't know. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it that I had to cover at least.
Yeah, I mean, we've yeah, I think we're pretty good. We talked about pretty much everything, at least everything that sticks out to me.
I guess I'll say one more thing. The dream sequences were like really, really sick. I know we
Yeah.
talked about it like a little bit in the beginning, but all the animation and like the conversations and how they were just like kind of like walking around on planes and like
Yeah.
like there was like a lot of people and one of them like jumping around like
Yeah, that was really cool.
and I'm trying to remember. Okay, they had like the one with all the people in it, and then they
There was the
had
one with like the stacks of wings where he was like underneath the
oh
fucking biggest plane, and then it just like collapses in on itself, and he's like, "Ah, shit." I thought that was fun.
Yeah. I think fun was probably the biggest word to describe those scenes. They were just extremely fun to watch.
Yeah,
And
I mean, and also, like, so many other, like, Miyazaki movies, have, like, some fantasy element to them, and this is definitely, like, the most grounded out of all of them, I would say, but, like, those were, like, the element of, like, fantasy that was in them, like, there was some it wasn't completely like, grounded in reality. There was,
yeah.
like there were those things as well.
And I thought it was a good way of introducing Caproni without being like, yeah, he met Caproni or whatever. Like
Right.
he knows about Caproni and Caproni is like this great inspiration to him. And that's like a great this isn't actually like he's not actually meeting Caproni, but like this is how he thinks of Caproni and how he thinks of aviation is something that's beautiful. It's very cool.
yeah, and it could have been like literally as simple as like in the beginning of the movie, them being like, I really like this Caproni guy. He's a big influence to me. And instead they made the dream sequences, which kind of like carry Gyro along with like what the next step is, what his thought about his career and his future and his life are. And really great way for him to have like an internal conversation about these are the things I care about. These are the things I don't care about. These are the things I'm thinking about in the back of my mind, and they make me, a little sad. But I'm here to do airplane stuff, so I focus on that, and a great way to do it.
Hmm.
Right. There was nothing else. We can do ratings when you guys want to go first.
Sure. I really like this movie. I thought the plot, the character development throughout of it, and just like the general setting of it was extremely interesting. Um, Very interesting period of time and a very interesting aspect to focus on. I'd probably give it around a 9, I'd say. I'd say it's I haven't seen like every Ghibli movie, but it's top top 3 probably. Top 5 at least.
Kyle, you want
Yeah,
to
I
go
mean, I'd
ahead?
probably
Yeah,
yeah,
go
I'd
ahead.
also give this a 9. Um, yeah, I mean, I really like the, like, attention to detail in the movie, like, both in the animation and visual presentation, but also in, like, the plot and, like, the characterization of Jiro and, like, how we just see, like, so many different aspects of his life. Um, and, like, yeah, I love how thorough it is in that sense. I love how, like, affirming it is of dreams and, like, it's basically saying you should follow your dreams no matter what, and I really like shit like that. And it's just overall a very beautiful movie, like, both in visuals and also in, like, the story and the characters and the way that it's told. Yeah, I'd give this a 9. Definitely, like, probably, like, top 5 Ghibli movies. I've seen most of them, uh, maybe not most of them, but I've seen a lot of them. There's a lot. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, probably, like, top 5. Yeah.
I probably give this like closer to a 10, but not quite a 10. I guess I'll just start with the things that I didn't like. Just real quick, like there was just some characters. Like I know it's a biography about this man, but like there's characters that didn't really have a clear point, and like that's okay. But I don't know. I feel like there was several of them, and they were large-ish parts of the story, so I feel like that's maybe a wasted opportunity for screen time, or they could have used that time to do anything else, basically. So it's kind of a setback, but the message of the movie is like fantastic. It's just a dude who has passion, and and all the negatives and the positives that come with the pursuit of a passion, and that's what that movie is. And they did a really good job like capturing the totality of somebody who has a really impactful career, and chooses to do something that, although is a really great technological achievement in terms of like what mankind can do, there's people that want to use it as weapons, and then there's people that see the beauty in it. And I think that is a complex but really important message that I think a lot of movies I wish could capture. And like just the pacing of the movie was so unique. They're just jumping around in time, but didn't really matter because this is about airplanes, so it was pretty comfortable. Really great animation. All the scenes about him like thinking about airplanes or being in a dream state were just like a lot of fun to watch. And there's always little cool things to look at it on the screen. The dialogue was great. Gyro as a character was really good. So yeah, higher 9, like 9.5 to 9.9 kind of range, but not quite a 10. Really, really solid movie though. I really liked it.
Great movie.
I guess that's it for The Wind Rises. I guess we are signing off for this episode.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
Goodbye.